Mr. Speaker.
James Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our hearts do go out to the people of Fiji. Tropical Cyclone Winston was, as has been mentioned, the strongest storm in recorded history in our hemisphere. Wind speeds topped 320 kilometres an hour. Whole forests were stripped of their foliage. Schools, hospitals, houses were flattened. More than 40 people are dead and thousands are now homeless. Personally, I have found it impossible not to be moved by the images of children standing by their wrecked homes and the wreckage of entire communities lying scattered on those famously beautiful Fijian shores. I thank the National Government for its immediate and its substantive response in the aftermath. Our close ties to Fiji make this unlike many global catastrophes, and it's heartening to know that those ties are now moving thousands of New Zealanders to give generously to our brothers and sisters now suffering in Fiji. Mr. Speaker, there is another way that New Zealanders and the government can respond to this cyclone and to others like it. It is no coincidence that this was the strongest cyclone recorded in our hemisphere, or that this was one of many record-breaking storms that has occurred in recent times. As a nation, we need to start facing the truth that climate change is making tropical storms like Cyclone Winston more ferocious. As New Zealanders, we are the 5th highest emitter per capita of climate pollution. Since we committed to reduce our climate change emissions in 1990 and under successive governments, New Zealand's net emissions have risen 42%, and the Ministry for the Environment projects another 50% increase by 2030 if we keep doing what we're doing. We as a nation are not properly reckoning with the fact that our actions are hurting those people in the Pacific who are the most vulnerable to the impacts of the pollution that we are adding to. If we really want to help the Pacific, our climate emissions should be going down, not up. New Zealanders are getting in behind the recovery effort in Fiji. The government has provided financial aid and deployed Defence Force resources and personnel to help. The Green Party supports these efforts. But along with that desperately needed and immediate aid, the next most compassionate thing that we can do for Fiji now is to listen to the pleas of Pacific Island leaders and commit to taking real action on climate change. While we wring our hands and we fret at how expensive it might be for New Zealand to do anything about climate change, we ought to recognise that the cost to our Pacific neighbours of our doing nothing is now being measured in human lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.